It's time for the most highly requested video on a weekly basis. Heading into week 8, we are giving you our trade targets.
Come on, baby.
Trades that you should make before week 8, both trade fours and trade aways.
Yep.
We got 8 players between the two of us. We're going to go back and forth. Do us a favor. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe if you like the content. If you don't like it, don't subscribe. That's up to you. You know what I mean?
Whatever you want to do.
But why don't you comment down below and let us know what trades you are making, or if you agree or disagree with our takes. It's always good to add knowledge in the comments below. We might not agree, but we always are welcome to people's opinions in the comments. All right, I'm going to give you my first trade for, and I think that this is a name that a lot of people aren't going to anticipate. I don't think you're going to see this name probably in many articles this week.
Right.
But I just think that with this move, this is a long-term play. Okay,
Right.
This is not short-term success. We're trying to play chess, not checkers, with this move.
200 IQ.
And I don't think it's going to cost you really anything to go out and make this in a redraft league. So my first trade for target is Rachaad White.
Okay.
I mean, he might even be on your waiver wire at this point. He's the running back, the rookie running back out of Arizona, who is currently on the Bucks. Rostered in 44% of sleeper leagues. I am more speaking towards leagues who, you know, kind of have that knowledge of Dynasty, already know who Rachaad White is. I like in all of our leagues, Badake, he's already rostered.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Hey, if you're watching this and he's out there, he should have been already added. I think he was on my waiver wire ads like week 1. He should have already been added onto your team. Right now, he's the running back 53 on the year. So this is not something that's going to cost you that much. He's averaging 5 fantasy points per game. So why am I telling you to trade for him? Firstly, this offense needs a spark. It needs a change.
Something.
The Tampa Bay Bucks, led by Tom Brady, the GOAT, are currently 3-4. Somehow, they are at the top of their division at 3-4.
It's crazy.
This division is very interesting. I mean, the Saints we thought could be a favorite. They're at the bottom. The Panthers are above the Saints. It's wild. But this offense is struggling terribly. If you look at the Bucks offense from 2021 to 2022, rush yards per game are down. I mean, they weren't like a huge powerhouse on the ground, but they were able to be not just a one-dimensional team last year. In fact, I mean, they almost 30 less rushing yards per game this year compared to last. If you look at the total yards per game for this team, which is what concerns me the most, last year they were 3rd in the NFL. This year they are 21st. They are averaging almost 70 less yards per game under this current offense. Total points per game, last year they scored the 2nd most points per game. This year they are 21st. Almost 10 less points per game this offense is scoring. Now, is all that on Leonard Fournette? No. He's playing behind a bad offensive line. But granted, he is also playing poorly. He is also an aging running back who may not be the same player that we were used to him being. His yards per carry is down from 4.5 in 2021 to 3.5 in 2022. 3.5 is atrocious. That is not the starting running back that you want for your team. I know the offensive line is bad. I hear you. I hear you guys. But this year, he has rushed under 3 yards per carry in 5 of 7 games. Under 3 yards per carry in 5 of 7 games.
Yeah.
To be clear, analytically, Rachaad White hasn't been much better with his limited opportunities, okay? But I'm more looking at the eye test between these two running backs. Lenny, to me, looks like he's potentially lost a little bit of his athleticism. Looks like he's lost a little bit of his burst. When you see Rachaad White out there with his limited opportunities, I see the burst. I see the promise. I see the untapped potential. And then we have reports like this coming out. Shout out to Rick Stroud, NFL Stroud on Twitter. He said, Coach Todd Bowles, this is after the game. He said the Bucks are in a dark place right now, and they have to see if the older guys can still play and if the younger guys are good enough to play. If this is true, and Todd Bowles said this, which is we have to, this is an NFL reporter. This is a guy around the league. He probably would have been speaking directly to Todd Bowles or heard him in a press conference.
Right.
If this is true, could that mean more opportunities for Rachaad White? Because, by the way, White saw a 44% snap share this week, and that is the highest he's seen all season. That report coming out, him already playing more than he ever has on the field on Sunday, could those two things line up? I think they potentially could. Secondly, his skill set really suits Tom Brady and this offense strengths and, more importantly, their weaknesses better than Leonard Fournette, in my opinion. As mentioned, neither of these running backs are really going to be powerhouses on the ground. That's not how they're fantasy relevant anyway. The way Lenny has been fantasy relevant has been through the air. Lenny averages 5.5 targets per game. He's got 3 touchdowns through the air. He's not been doing it on the ground, okay? But Lenny didn't come into the league as a pass-catching running back. In fact, he was pretty poor in LSU as a prospect, as a pass-catching running back. That's something that he had to almost force himself to become. Meanwhile, you have Rachaad White, who his receiving work is what made him a very enticing prospect out of Arizona State. You can see in his senior year, he put up 43 receptions for 456 yards. Now, if you're not familiar with the collegiate game, 43 receptions is actually a lot for a college running back. I mean, most of the guys that you're thinking of that are in the NFL right now probably had 20 to 30, maybe 35 at the most. 43 is a lot of receptions for a prospect, and his dual threat ability, both as a runner and in the air, is what made him so special. I mean, I remember scouting him. Me and Badake both looked at him. We were like, "This is a wide receiver. This isn't a running back."
Yeah.
It almost gives me like Antonio Gibson type vibes. So with this offense being so poor with their offensive line, they almost need someone like Rachaad White to counteract that and really work him through the air, kind of make your weakness something that you're trying to turn into a strength with the best player possible. I think Rachaad White is that player. Right. Thirdly, and we never ever wish an injury on a player, okay? Never, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. But Rachaad White is an injury away from a top 15 ceiling weekly. I think about all the players who have gone down to injury. We point to maybe Melvin Gordon. I don't know. I mean, maybe you can point to Michael Carter.
Right.
But I have no doubt in my mind that if Leonard Fournette goes down, Rachaad White truly is a league-winning running back. The way that this offense funnels through the running backs, the amount of work that Rachaad White would see in the air, I have no doubt in my mind that he would truly be a league-winning running back. We've talked about playing chess, not checkers, at the beginning, right? And it feels like every week a starting running back goes down. Javonte Williams, I had him in so many leagues. Breece Hall had him in so many leagues. We feel this pain, and obviously, it's just fantasy. It's just a game. But running backs are going down, and if Lenny was to go down, we don't want him to. You instantly have a top 15 running back in fantasy. Without a doubt in my mind, there's no Latavius Murray that's going to take touches away. There's no Ty Johnson that I think could be involved, like with Michael Carter, that could take touches away. He's the clear player to step in there.
Right.
And by the way, from 2018 to 2021, Fournette missed or did not finish 19 total games due to injury. 19 total games. You can see the injury history there. Hamstring issues, ankle sprains, neck sprains. You can see missed 4 games in 2021. I mean, went on IR. There's a history of this for Leonard Fournette. Not that we want it, but it could happen. And the last thing I'll say on Rachaad White is this could be the cheapest trade target we've ever brought on this series the entire year. Truly, I can't think of a cheaper one that we've brought for you guys to go out and do. According to ECR right now, give me Rachaad White over, and these are conversations that you can start. Go start these conversations. See what you can do.
Yeah.
But give me Rachaad White over Caleb Huntley, Tyler Algier, Latavius Murray, James Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Paris Campbell, Tyler Boyd, Sky Moore, Hunter Renfrow. Those are some names that currently, according to ECR, expert consensus rankings, that he is valued around. So give me Rachaad White over all those players. Whether you have to, maybe, and if you're doing trades this week, he's the guy that you include in the deal. And the other person probably doesn't know too much about him. So
that's a throw-in player in that trade.
Go grab Rachaad White. Again, could Leonard Fournette be healthy this entire year and this won't be worth much? Yes. But there is a chance that you could truly have a league-winning running back in a season where running backs are constantly going down. So I like this trade. I've already sent a bunch of trade offers for him, and I want him on all my teams right now.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see how Rachaad White, maybe he can bring a spark to Tom Brady and these Bucks. Before I get into my trade target, I kind of wanted to preference this saying, like, this is what's going to happen, right? So my approach going into this week for the trade 4 guys specifically is players that can be, a consistent flex or wide receiver 2 option, players that are going to, especially during bye weeks, bye weeks are coming up, especially in the playoff. There's a stretch right before playoffs, weeks 10 to 14, when everyone's saying, shit, I didn't realize this player was on a bye week because you weren't really thinking so far ahead or you didn't realize your top guy as Stephon Diggs. Obviously, you just have Devontae Adams, CMC, all these guys were on a bye week, and you didn't realize that, and you didn't accommodate for it. And I feel like last year I did the same thing, which really put me in a tough spot within those weeks 10 to 14. So I just wanted to get this out the way now, give you guys a head start right now. If you're 7-0, 6-1, whatever the case may be, if you're in a leading record right now and you have guys in bye weeks late, I think this could be a great option for you. So I'm giving you guys that are lower right now that can skyrocket later, in my opinion. So my first trade for option is Brandon Ayuk. Okay. And once again, these aren't guys that are going to win you your weeks. I'm not talking about the Justin Jeffersons, the Cooper Kupp, the Austin Eckler's, guy that you can put in your flex or in a wide receiver 2 position if your key guy is out. Okay, so Brandon Ayuk, I'm going to be looking at the production so far for each player, and then the bye week specifically from weeks 10 to 14. Right, currently Brandon Ayuk is wide receiver 37. His rest of the season rankings is wide receiver 37, but he's currently wide receiver 21. Before the weekly update hasn't happened as we're recording this. I think it should be higher.
Sure.
Through week 7, he's averaging 7 targets per game, 12.9 fantasy points per game. Obviously, they just acquired CMC. Maybe this offense might change a little bit, but I like the way this offense is going. I feel like Jimmy G is having some sort of a safety blanket with Brandon Ayuk. Quick routes, quick slants, screens for Brandon Ayuk specifically. And maybe, once again, that might change with CMC there, and this offense could change specifically just a little bit. But I like Brandon Ayuk's floor right now, once again, averaging 12.9 fantasy points per game. He does have a bye week in week 9. But if you go through weeks 10 to 14 in these matchups leading up to your playoffs, remember, leading up to the playoffs, because I'm not saying you should start these guys during playoffs, but if you have your key matchups in bye weeks going into the playoffs, weeks 10 versus the Chargers give the 14 most fantasy points. Weeks 11, Cardinals, 12 Saints, 13 Dolphins, 14 Bucks. All these guys either give up a top 10 pick, or they're in a top 10 points to the wide receiver position, or they're kind of in the middle of the pack, right? So you can take that as you will. Hopefully we can put that on the screen. And obviously,
you talked about Chargers. They just lost J.C. Jackson.
Yeah, and they just lost J.C. Jackson. Obviously, they have the Bucks as well on the schedule, and they just lost to P.J. Walker. You get what I'm saying? So, anything can change, and everything is subject to change. But leading up to the playoffs, Brandon Ayuk could be a good guy. Let me remind you, the bye weeks from weeks 10 to 14. These are the teams, literally 16 teams that are going from bye weeks from weeks 10 to 14. Ravens, Bengals, Patriots, Jets, Jags, Dolphins, Seahawks, Bucks, Cardinals, Panthers. Week 14 is the killer, which is right before playoffs, when you need to win that week. Falcons, Bears, Packers, Colts, Saints, Commanders. 6 teams on bye. I can't believe whoever did that is ridiculous. But literally half the league is on bye. Some of your top key players might not be there. So once again,
So dumb that
it's crazy.
like that.
But once again, a guy that you can plug into your flex. Let's start thinking forward now, depending on how you are in your league. Maybe you can't do this if you're, 2-5 or 2-6, whatever the record is right now. If you're in a losing record, but give me Ayuk over the following guys: Drake London, Bateman, Michael Thomas, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, unfortunately, Melvin Gordon, A.J. Dillon, and Darrell Henderson. These are all guys. Brandon Ayuk, I would rather have over all those guys because I feel like he has a safe floor. He's moving forward. I can fit in my flex and on my low-end wide receiver too if my top guy is out within those weeks.
Yeah, I like it. And Ayuk is one of those guys who started off pretty rough, so I don't think anyone would have too much loyalty to him. Also, his playoff schedule, week 15 is Seattle, then Washington, and then the Raiders, which I know for sure that Washington and the Raiders are getting torched in their secondary. I don't know about Seattle, but that seems like a pretty damn good schedule for playoffs as well.
Yeah.
All right. My second trade for, put it in reverse tear, is Scary Terry McLaurin. You know how, when he was a rookie and everyone's calling him Scary Terry, he's like, I don't want to be Scary Terry. Someone's already Scary Terry. And then we were all like, all right, let's come up with a better one. And people tried to force names. They're like, F1 McLaurin. It's like, oh, come on, man. That's lame. And we were just like, hey, you know what? Just because someone has it doesn't mean it's wrong. So we're going to call him Scary Terry. I mean, there is not a better name for Scary Terry. Everything else felt too forced. And I think he's probably realized that. Also, honorable mention, Keenan Allen. I brought him up last week. I still think you should go trade for him. Check out the trade I said last week on the video.
Mm-hmm.
But Terry McLaurin, he's a buy low because he was drafted as a wide receiver 15 this year. Isn't that crazy? I mean, we so quickly forget ADP and where players were drafted, especially this late into the season. But he was drafted as a wide receiver 15, and he's currently the wide receiver 33. Not only that, but you drafted Terry McLaurin, or the person who has him drafted Terry McLaurin, and he hasn't even been the most valuable wide receiver on his own team. It has been Curtis Samuel, who is currently the wide receiver 23. Terry, without a doubt, has been a huge disappointment based off of ADP and draft capital. I would know. I have him in one of my home money leagues, okay? But I think you should trade for him, and I'll tell you why. Firstly, Carson Wentz did not unlock Terry McLaurin. I genuinely thought that there was a chance with Carson Wentz's arm talent. I personally, and I love Taylor Heineke, but I personally don't think he's played with a quarterback that has Carson Wentz's arm talent. I still think I could say that at this very point, but it just did not work out. And I have a couple theories as to why. But let's talk about how bad Carson Wentz was for Terry McLaurin, who is now gone. McLaurin, in 6 weeks with Wentz, targets, he was 34th in the NFL, averaging 6.1 targets per game. Receptions, he was 40th in the NFL, averaging 3.6 receptions per game. This is the dude you just gave a bag to, top 10 paid wide receiver. And he is not even in the top 34, 33 in targets or receptions. That is just incredibly dumb. Like, I just don't understand why that would be the case here. Look at yards. He's 20th in the NFL, 61 per game. And games above 15 fantasy points. We're not asking much. Games above 15 fantasy points with Carson Wentz, 1. 1 out of those 6 weeks, you were probably happy with Terry McLaurin, or at least, okay, this is okay. And the more difficult part about Wentz being Terry's quarterback is the way the offense looked and the way Carson Wentz did not prioritize him, which will not show up on analytics. I, unfortunately, as a Washington fan, forced myself to watch every single one of these games. I talked about it on primetime when we played the Bears. I'm like, you guys feel bad. I have to watch this every single week. But as someone who watches Washington every single week, I can tell you how frustrating it was to see Terry McLaurin's usage and the way he was involved in this offense. Carson Wentz did not get him involved early. That's what you do with your star wide receivers. You get targets into them early. You get them going. He didn't lock him in on the red zone. He didn't give him many one-on-one opportunities down the field, which is one of Terry's specialties as a wide receiver. Most of Terry's games were actually salvaged by garbage time, receptions and yards. I mean, in garbage time, that's where Terry McLaurin was really like not screwing over your week most weeks. I mentioned this on our Dynasty channel, and I think this is why I believe Wentz and Terry were never on the same page.
Right.
I talked about this on our Dynasty channel when I brought up Jahan Dotson as a really good buy. I can't help but think that Wentz and McLaurin just were never able to gain chemistry. They needed that preseason to really get on the same page. But if you remember, that is exactly when Terry McLaurin was holding out for his contract extension. For that entire holdout, Wentz built chemistry with who? It was Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel, who was really good under Carson Wentz. Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel. I believe that had a huge impact on Terry's fantasy output. But the good news is we got Taylor Heineke in town now, okay? And Taylor Heineke will prioritize Terry. Let's compare Wentz and Taylor for Terry's fantasy outputs. In this, research, I only included the games that Heineke was completely healthy for in 2021. Okay, I could include last week, but it would make the stats look even better in Heineke's favor. But just so you were on the same page, I included 6 games with Wentz in 2022, which he was healthy. 13 games with Heineke in 2021, in which he was healthy. In 2022 with Carson Wentz versus 2021 with Heineke, let's look at this. Targets per game. Heineke is targeting Terry McLaurin over 2.5 more times per game. Receptions per game. Again, up with Heineke. Yards per game. Up with Taylor Heineke. Fantasy points per game. Up with Taylor Heineke. In fact, Terry's best finish this year, guess when it came? This week with who? Taylor Heineke. I almost said Terry Heineke. Terry Heineke, what a name. His best finish of the year came this week, where he put up 5 receptions on 8 targets for 73 yards and a tud. And the reason he was able to have that tud is because Taylor Heineke was like, I trust this guy. I'm going to throw it up to him and let him make plays, which we didn't see that much with Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Let me visually show you just how much. This is hilarious. Let me visually show you just how much Taylor Heineke trusts Terry McLaurin. This is from Homer McFanboy on Twitter. I was looking at this because I thought I saw it in the game myself, trying to find it on Twitter. So shout out to him for catching it. He says Taylor Heineke's eyes were completely closed when he threw that last pass to Terry McLaurin. And this was a key fourth quarter pass. This was in the fourth quarter, right?
Right.
And it was a key pass. I remember watching it and I'm thinking to myself, did he close his eyes when he just threw that ball to Terry McLaurin? Yes, the photograph confirms this pass was thrown to Terry McLaurin. And my guy Taylor Heineke was like, I got so much trust in you that I'm gonna throw it. I don't even need to see you. I'm gonna throw it in your direction and believe that you're gonna come down with it. And then I tweeted out myself, I was like, we all just want someone in our lives who believes in us the way that Taylor Heineke believes in Terry McLaurin, right? We all just want one person in our lives who has that kind of trust. This is the type of quarterback we want for Terry McLaurin. Someone who's going to suit his strengths, which is pretty, like, he's a very, very good contested catch guy down the field, deep ball threat. So you can see there's trust there with Taylor Heineke. If you go even look on Twitter and look at, the post-game pressers with Heineke and Taylor, Heineke and Terry, they were both so excited to have each other on the field. And there will absolutely still be inconsistencies. But the hard part with Wentz is that there wasn't a weak winning ceiling. There was just inconsistencies.
Right.
Now with Terry McLaurin having Taylor Heineke as his quarterback, there's still going to be inconsistencies, but he has reclaimed his weak winning upside with Heineke and that trust. And lastly, I think people are still really skeptical on Terry McLaurin. And I understand why, because you drafted him pretty high. He hasn't really returned any value. And, we have 2 weeks where he scored under 8 points. So I think he's a very trade, like a wide receiver that you can trade for. And according to ECR, I'm going to give you some names that you can go explore, some targets, some trade targets with. Could be packages, whatever. These are just names that I think you could potentially try and look at moving for Terry. Brandon Cooks, Drizzy Drake London, Tyler Boyd, Latavius Murray, Rondale Moore, Alan Lazard, Deontay Johnson, James Robinson, Adam Thielen, James Conner, Khalil Herbert, Kareem Hunt. Again, these are just some names that I would be looking at moving. The list could go on and on, but to me, again, Terry's going to be inconsistent still, but now you have the hope, like the belief in him because he can win you your week. So give me Terry McLaurin here this week. I want to trade for him.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I was on the other side. I was gonna bring Terry as a sell high, but I can definitely see the opportunity here for sure. It's very interesting, Terry. I mean, Taylor Heineke. I said this last year. Taylor Heineke, man, they should just roll with him. Just let him sling the ball. Just let him go crazy. But
I mean, if it's for fans' sake, like just to have fun watching a game, sure. But if it's for the sake of our franchise long term, no,
probably not the answer. Nah, all good. That makes sense. My second trade for target, once again, going with the same model as last time. You're looking at the stretch going into the playoffs, weeks 10 to 14, guys that you believe that could be a good flex option or a wide receiver too. Give me Wan'Dale Robinson. I'll go with my home team, the New York Football Giants. This Giants team is in desperate need of a wide receiver, and Wan'Dale Robinson is that guy. And there has been trade reports saying that we could acquire somebody before the deadline of November 1st. Honestly, I kind of see that it being very impossible. We don't have the cap space. We don't have the money. We have Kenny G sitting on the bench with $76 million doing nothing, right? So I'm not necessarily sure if we could get somebody, but let me tell you something. Wan'Dale Robinson is the number one guy, is the guy that Brian Dable and Daniel Jones are trusting in game time situations, in third down situations, whatever the case may be. We all love Saquon Barkley. We all see what he can do every single week. But it sounds crazy, and I've been saying this for literally every single week because as a Giants fan, I was not expecting us to be at 6-1, number one. Number two, I was just like, everyone's just going to stack the box. Why is no one's stacking the box? And that's because of Daniel Jones's legs, and that's what's crazy about it. But Saquon is still running the ball. Daniel Jones is running the ball, and they have no wide receivers, and the only wide receiver they have is Wan'Dale Robinson, who missed the first 5 weeks, of the regular season. Daniel Bellinger just went down and is unsure when he is going to return. Wanda Robinson is the weapon. He has been the weapon for the past 2 games. Current rest of season rankings, he's wide receiver 41. He's currently the wide receiver 96, obviously, because he has missed the last 4 to 5 games. In the past 2 weeks, Wanda Robinson has already led the team in receptions and targets, which is literally the past 2 weeks. In the first week, he was only on the field for 23. First week as of week 16, he was only on the field for 23%, in week 6. And in week 7, he was on the field for 69%. I mean, and mind you, he is only catching, what's that? Quick maths, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 catches in the past 2 games? That's literally nothing. That is nothing. That's us not throwing the ball. We need to throw the ball more, and that, in my opinion, it's what's going to happen. Once again, you're looking at the stretch leading into the playoffs. Week 10 against the Texans, which surprisingly, they give the 10th least fantasy points to the wide receiver position. The Lions, the 12th most. Cowboys is a good defense. Washington, the 8th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. And then the Eagles, who is also a good defense. But once again, if you look at the Cowboys and the Eagles games, that's divisional games where anything can happen, where maybe the Giants are down and they have to pass the ball more, or whatever the case may be. Same thing with the Cowboys and Eagles. Once again, all subject to change. I think Wanda Robinson is a good flex option, a guy that you can set and forget. You're not looking, once again, I'm not looking to spend to sell my top guys, my Justin Jeffersons, my Austin Eckler's. You want to keep those guys for the playoffs. You want to find somebody that is a good, even flex option that can give you 8 to 15 points, hopefully at its ceiling. But you want a good floor, and I think Wanda Robinson right now and moving forward is going to have a good floor. Give me Wanda Robinson over Michael Thomas, Garrett Wilson, Darnell Mooney, over Rondale and Elijah Moore, honestly. DJ Moore, Brian Robinson, Melvin Gordon, and James Robinson. I think all these guys are fantastic options to try and go get Wandale in return. I think this is a perfect opportunity moving forward once again.
Yeah, let's see what happens with Wandale. It's been cool to see him out there. My worry is just always with a small player injury, like with the amount of opportunities he's going to get. Let's see. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how those Giants keep winning games. All right, my last trade for target. I don't think this player has a league-winning upside, but I think he has the ability to make you lose weeks, and I'll explain. That would be Zachary Ertz. Why is there a buy low window? Well, he's coming off his worst fantasy finish of the year. 6.1 points he put up on Thursday Night Football versus the Saints. He finished as a tight end 22 at the time of recording. This will probably be even lower after Monday night. He only had 2 receptions on 4 targets. And we're going to talk about that. I think D-Hop's arrival could really scare people off of Ertz, but I'm going to tell you why I think you should trade for him. Firstly, he has been one of the most consistent tight ends in all of fantasy football. Before week 7, Ertz put up 6 games in a row over 10 fantasy points. I mean, if you don't have Kelsey or Andrews, you are dreaming of this type of production. Someone who is not going to screw you over, lay a goose egg, give you 2 points, give you 3 points, consistently over 10 fantasy points. He's actually currently averaging 5.2 receptions on 7.8 targets. If I could have that and locked up every week, knowing that someone is not going to drop a goose egg on me with the tight end landscape, that's something that I desperately want on my team. Second, let's talk about the Thursday Night Football game versus the Saints. I would argue that the game script was really not in favor of Zach Ertz on Thursday Night Football.
Right.
The Cardinals put up a season-high 42 points. Wow, you kidding me? You telling me that the Cardinals put up the most points they've scored this entire year, but Ertz only had 6 fantasy points? Well, let's talk about the context of why that might have happened. Unfortunately, in fantasy for Kyler and every pass catcher outside of D-Hop, 14 of those points actually came from 2 back-to-back pick sixes from Andy Dalton, which gave the Cardinals a 28-14 lead at halftime. When you're leading a game by 2 touchdowns at halftime, obviously the mindset is going to change a little bit.
Yeah.
Which it did. I mean, leading the game by 2 touchdowns at half led to Kyler Murray having just 29 pass attempts for the entire game. His lowest pass attempts in 7 games this year. The lowest of any game this year, okay? Pass attempts wise. And we talked earlier, a couple weeks ago when I told you to trade for D-Hop, that this was one of the highest passing volume wise, passing teams in the NFL. And it also, that Thursday Night Football after halftime, it led to the team only having 29 rushing attempts, which is the second highest mark they've had in 7 games. I personally don't see this being a game script that's going to come very often for these Cardinals. You've watched a lot of Cardinals, probably. I've watched a lot of Cardinals.
Yeah.
I find it hard to see them being in scenarios in which they are up a lot in games
Yeah.
for the rest of this year. And the last thing I'll say is, let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins. Trust me, I mean, I'm hyped to see D-Hop back. I don't know if you guys remember, but 14 days ago today, I brought him as a trade target on this very series when he was valued as a wide receiver 30 rest of season, according to ECR, according to all the experts out there, right? So I'm excited to see him doing well. But it would be super ignorant for us and anyone out there who owns D-Hop to anticipate this kind of game every week where he's getting 14 targets. That is just not realistic, I don't believe, for DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe he hits the 10 targets a week per game, but 14 is a little bit unrealistic, I would say. And mainly because I believe defenses are going to adjust to DeAndre Hopkins. It's important to note, again, on that Thursday Night Football game, the Saints were without their shutdown cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore. If Marshawn Lattimore plays that game, I think it looks a lot more different. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is open as much as he was all night on these, really average cornerbacks that the Saints had without Marshawn Lattimore. And again, teams are going to adjust defensively to D-Hop. I'm not saying that they're going to shut him down. I still like D-Hop rest of season. I mean, he looked incredible. Of course I like him rest of season. But he's going to be the top priority every week now for defenses to shut down, which is going to lead to the restoration of Ertz and Rondale's target share, in my opinion. So, is Ertz going to win you your league? No, he's absolutely not a fantasy league winner. But he's not going to lose you your league. And I think unless you have Andrews and Kelsey, that's really what you're looking for at the tight end position. Someone who is not going to lose me my week. You don't have a Hollywood for a while. I know that Robbie Anderson's there. We talked about him before. I don't imagine him playing as big of an impact as other people do. So to me, I think Ertz is still going to be the safety blanket. D-Hop's going to be great, but he's not going to get 14 targets a game. So give me Zach Ertz over a couple players, packages, whatever you need to do. Give you names as far as to gauge his value. Give me Zach Ertz over Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson, Gerald Everett, Tyler Boyd, Melvin Gordon, Isaiah Pacheco, who, for whatever reason, when he was named starter, everyone was like, oh my God, it's Pacheco season. I'm thinking to myself, they've split the timeshare between 3 running backs every week. They're not going to stop. Anyway, Pacheco, maybe someone still believes in him. Tyler Algier, Hunter Renfrow, Antonio Gibson. I'm giving you some names to go out and try and make moves for Ertz. Get a little more consistency on your team at the tight end position. So yeah, go trade for Ertz.
Yeah, love it. You always need a good tight end. So good at Ertz. My last trade for target is George Pickens, brother George.
Okay.
And this one's tough because a lot of my leaning and thought process is if Chase Claypool does get traded, and I know there's been a lot of rumors and everything that has been coming around, and I do believe he will. I hope he really does get traded so they can unleash George Pickens, and you want the Pickett to Pickens, and you kind of seeing that already. You kind of seeing all that happen. That might come after the bye week, but let me tell you some things. Chase Claypool through week 7, averaging 6.2 targets per game, averaging 9.4 fantasy points per game. If Chase Claypool does leave, maybe that can get split between Deontay and Pickens. That's 9 targets they can potentially get per game, right? Whether that's Deontay or George Pickens. Currently, rest of the season, Pickens is wide receiver 38. He is currently the wide receiver 43 as of this recording right now. Through week 7, averaging 5.7 targets per game, averaging 9.4 fantasy points. So he's getting less targets, but getting the same amount of points as Chase Claypool so far. And I know I've been saying to get, let's look at the bye weeks and leading up to it. That can come up here. Week 10 versus the Saints, the 5th least amount of fantasy points. Week 11 against the Bengals, middle of the pack. That's a divisional game. The Colts to give it the least amount of fantasy points. Mind you, before I continue, the reasons why I feel like George Pickens and a lot of these people are getting points is because Kenny Pickett is putting them in tough situations. He's a rookie. He's been throwing a lot of picks, and they have been down tremendously in some of these games. We saw what happened on Sunday night this past week. So many throws a pick, we're still throwing the ball.
Yeah.
those are pick. We're going to go right back to George Pickens.
It's like for whatever reason, picks don't matter if it's Kenny Pickett right now.
No.
No one cares.
No
That's
one,
fine. Throw another one, Kenny.
and keep going. And that's exactly what's going to happen, especially in the divisional games. So Bengals, Colts, Falcons, Ravens in Week 14, who give it the sixth amount of points to the fantasy, sixth most points to the fantasy wide receiver position. All that is subject to change. I am really liking George Pickens right now. If I had to give you a favorite one, it's George Pickens out of this group, and that's purely because I am truly believing Chase Claypool is going to get traded, and I'm not sure why. There's been a lot of rumor reports. There's been reports about Chase Claypool getting traded last year and during this offseason, and it's still happening now. When are they going to pull the trigger? I really hope that does happen, because once that happens, it's going to be everything is going to go to George, in my opinion. That's when it all flips. You have your rookie gaining the connection going into the week, and week 9, the bye week. That's when things can flip. Remember that. We always say whether it's a rookie running back, a rookie wide receiver, and I'm looking for the Mon-Ra St. Brown stretches, the Alan Lazard stretches in the playoff when that's what you want. The guys are saying, holy shit, like you have to look at George Pickens, and then you got to look at someone, higher ranking that you might have to start and be like, who the hell am I starting? Because they've been so consistent. I think that's what can happen with George Pickens moving, coming into the playoff season. So give me Pickens over Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Boyd, Darnell Mooney, Drizzy Drake, Jacoby Myers, James Robinson, Tyler Algier, Gibson, and Eno Benjamin. It's Brother George time, honestly.
I mean, look, you don't have to convince me. I brought him on this video series in week 4, so I'm all aboard.
Mm-hmm.
We had a video series on our Dynasty channel before the year, guys that we're all in on. I brought George Pickens as the one guy I was all in on. So you don't got to convince me, man. I'm all in on George Pickens. Will he be traded, Claypool? I have no idea, man. It's an interesting conversation.
I'm really hoping.
I don't think you really need to. I don't think you need that to happen to be happy with Pickens.
I think
if it happens, it'll be a huge boost.
Yeah, if it happens, I think it's an instant like we're getting production, where like I think it's still going to be gradual until
Steelers are 2-5 at some point. Probably make a move. Maybe that's the move.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, we're gonna give you 2 tradeaways here. Last week I brought Darrell Henderson. This week I'm bringing Darrell Henderson, and I'll explain why. I mean, I truly still believe that this is the best sell high I could have brought you. I thought about doing Tyler Boyd. Okay. In my mind, I'm like, no one's falling for that. No, like everyone knows Tyler Boyd at this point. No one's like, oh my God, I'll give you value for Tyler Boyd off this game. I don't know. That was my thought process. I feel like certain players are just solidified, and it's like players aren't going to trade for them just because of one good week. So I did Darrell Henderson, and he's a better sell high now because the bye week is out of the way. And Cam Akers, let's talk about it. For whatever reason, threw up the deuces. I'm out.
He ain't coming back.
We don't know what happened. Just threw up the deuces. Coming off a game in week 6 for Darrell Henderson where he had 15 opportunities and a touchdown. He finished as the RB15. Why will a trade pay off? Why do you want to trade this player away? Well, firstly, this run game has been, and truly I think this word embodies it as a whole, their run game, atrocious. It has been atrocious. The Rams currently rush for the second fewest yards per game of any team in the NFL. Okay, the second fewest of any team in the NFL. For reference, the Bills are middle of the pack in rushing yards per game. They put up 117.8 yards per game on the ground. The Rams average 70.5. And that's just the middle of the pack. The gap from the middle of the pack to the Bills for the Rams is over 47 rushing yards per game. How about the best team in the NFL? That's actually the Giants. Shout out to the Giants. The Giants currently, the gap between the Giants is what I meant to say from the Rams is currently over 102 rushing yards per game difference. Meaning,
come on, baby.
They more than double the Rams on the ground. And according to PFF, the Rams currently have the 29th ranked offensive line through 7 weeks. This team is averaging just 1 yard before contact per rush attempt in 2022. The injuries on this offensive line, I personally don't see how it gets better for Henderson. Yeah. And let me ask you guys, I said the same thing last week, but does this run game and offense look like something that you really want any part of outside of Cooper Kupp? You let me know. And the other question I'll ask is, do you believe that the Rams are content with this running back room? There's no analytics here in the following part of this take, but I don't think they're happy with just Henderson. The Rams were legit contenders for CMC. Now, was that to drive the price up for him for San Francisco? Maybe. Like we've heard that that's been a possibility.
Yeah.
I think they were legitimately like, we need something. We are all in. We need a spark. I think they were legit contenders for CMC. Who else could they be looking at? Remember last year they brought in Sony Michel. And like who else could they be targeting in free agency or trades? And the other player here is Kyron Williams. I think he could have a much bigger role than people are anticipating when he comes back from IR. What typically holds people off the field as rookie running backs? It's their pass protection. If you look at Kyron Williams on film at Notre Dame, he was a very good pass protector. So I'm very interested to see what his role will be coming back. And the last thing, and I think more importantly, is the upcoming matchups are just really bad, like awful. In week 8, he faces San Francisco. San Francisco gives up the 4th fewest points to running backs. They're very good defensively. In week 9, they face Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just got roasted by Deonta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. I don't see that happening again.
Yeah.
I think that was more like, let's rally around the team we have in Carolina right now, and everyone played their ass off. Tampa Bay currently gives up the 7th fewest points to running backs, even after getting embarrassed last week. So for me, I don't like the schedule upcoming. I don't like the vibes in general of this offense. I don't want really any part of it outside of Cup. Run game's been atrocious. Like analytically, they're one of the worst run games. Really, he's going to survive off of volume if he survives. So people are looking for a starting running back right now. People are desperate for a starting running back right now. I think you can really move him and get great value. Last week, according to ECR, realistic trade targets were Travis Etienne and Ken Walker. I thought Ken Walker was a little bit unrealistic. I thought Travis Etienne you might have been able to do it. Both of those are completely unrealistic now. This week, how about we look at guys like Najee Harris? Najee's been struggling. I'll take Najee Harris over Darrell Henderson. Miles Sanders, potentially. Raheem Mostert, Chris Olave, Christian Kirk, Ramondre Stevenson, Keenan Allen, Deebo Samuel, Devonta Smith. Those are some names that I wanted to throw out there that I think you could potentially look at acquiring one-for-ones, packages, whatever the case may be, to give you a value on what you could get in return for Henderson. So trade him away, and I don't think you will regret it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Get Hendo out. I'm with you. I don't want any part of that backfield. And my trade away target, and I think this one's pretty obvious, is DJ Moore. And I'll tell you why I brought him, because I do agree with Zach. I was looking for someone I can just trade high without being a realistic scenario. An unrealistic scenario is that they're playing the Falcons next week. The Falcons currently give up the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position, so you have a window. A window has been cracked open just a little bit for you for potentially 2 weeks. The people are probably saying, okay, well, that was probably just a fluke because the Bucs are in their own head right now, and Tom is in turmoil, right? But if it happens against the Falcons next week, and someone that's not actually paying attention, like, well, the Falcons, they've been all right. You know, the defense has been pretty good. Actually, they give the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So I think it's pretty obvious. We don't like DJ Moore. DJ Moore is not a guy that we see consistent. He caught 7 out of 10 targets for over 19 fantasy points. PJ Walker is just throwing it up right now. That's all he's doing. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen, especially versus the Falcons. This is a divisional game as well. So there's definitely some weaknesses going into this. But DJ Moore, it's not sexy. Once again, even if you're just looking for, even if somebody's low, ACR is crazy right now. They still got DJ Moore up there, my guy. Like, as if they trust. I don't understand. They have DJ Moore as wide receiver 36 right now, above George Pickens, Adam Thielen, Curtis Samuel. Like, it's crazy. But the players I'm trying to get in return for DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens, Adam Thielen is lower than DJ Moore right now. Alan Lazard, Wan'Dale Robinson. There's so many names of players I can name out right now that I would rather have than DJ Moore. I think, Rondell Moore, Romeo Dubs still I'd rather have. Michael Gallup I would rather have. Allen Robinson. Would you rather have Allen Robinson?
No, I would prefer DJ Moore.
Give me Allen Robinson. And MVS.
He was my guy. A-Rob was, but
yeah,
tough to trust him.
There's just so many other people I would rather have. Alec Pierce. I know, and you can do whatever you want with that.
Sure.
But try and start a conversation, see what happens, and maybe you can get a downgrade when in reality is going to be an upgrade for your team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it definitely will be an interesting conversation. I'm kind of on the opposite side where, like, I don't think that there's enough value for me to move him away. You know, like, I know you mentioned Adam Thielen and Jacoby. I think it depends on the names. I'm kind of more like in the middle. Like, I think he might. Like, there's a chance he could be traded. That intrigues me.
Right.
I like that he faces Atlanta 2 weeks out of the next 3, so his value could rise.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle here, but I get it. Like, if you don't trust him, it's not a bad
100%.
time to kind of move on from him. So why don't you guys let us know in the comments below where you kind of stand on these takes? Do you like the trade fours? Do you like the tradeaways? And at the end of every video, we typically like ask a question to see if anyone's watched to the very end, because I'm always curious to see who's watched to the very end. So my question to you is, and we're not gonna do chocolate in this category, okay?
Uh-oh.
But if you've watched all the way to the end, because I want to see who has watched all the way to the end, I want you to give me your top 5 candy. Like, it can't be chocolate, non-chocolate based candies. Okay, I'm thinking like the Sour Patch Kids. I'm thinking the Starburst, like that kind of vibe. Okay, anything that's not chocolate candy wise, give me your top 5. I will say without a doubt for me, you got to put Sour Patch Kids at the top of that list. Like that's just my take. I will put Sour Patch Kids 101. Where would you stand? Is there a specific candy that stands out to you?
The first candy that comes out to me is probably like Skittles.
Oh, Skittles is pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's probably, but like it's like 1A 1B type vibe. You know, like that's how close. Skittles and Starbursts for me.
Starbursts are pretty unreal.
I can't really think of anything else like off the top of my head. I'm trying to looking through a list of candies.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll make another video. Who knows? I want to see what people say in the comments below.
Jolly Ranchers. Oh, that's money.
Jolly Ranchers are just consistent, right?
I mean that's what.
Just a consistent candy. But anyway, guys, why don't you comment down below? I want to see who's been watching to the end. Like the video, subscribe, and we will see you guys on the other videos here soon.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.